older kids are losing interest. But if we had, more climbing, more gamification, a little bit more of a healthy twist, that would pull them back in. And sure enough, it did.
Hi, I'm Russ, and this is the Memory Makers Podcast, the show that helps you create amazing customer experiences and make more memories. So welcome, gang. We are diving straight in. I am joined today for a really interesting interview where we're going to be talking about diversifying the attraction portfolio, something that's going to resonate really nicely for you folks looking to open up your first center, or maybe you're in a standalone attraction. And so joining me to have that deep dive is none other than Wes Ratcliff of Roller. Wes, how are you, good sir?
Hey, Russ, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dive in. So you are the general manager of Karting at Roller, but you've also you run a number of businesses, one of which was then acquired by Roller that was karting specific. So tell us a little bit about your background just on that karting side and give us some of those insights before we start diving in.
Yeah, happy to. So not to date myself, but the gray hair kind of gives it away. Been in this industry for about 20 years. Kind of got started. I was born and raised in New Orleans, and got basically roped into building what now is NOLA Motorsports Park. It's about a 2,000-acre facility outside of New Orleans. And the focus there is racing like we know and love, right? Cars, motorcycles, but also they've got a huge go-kart track for rentals, and groups and parties were a big part of that, right? Because we're so close to New Orleans downtown that having people come through, keeping it fresh, keeping just the people flowing through is really important to us. So through that, learned a lot of things about running venues, what did work, what didn't work. And through that, along the way, ended up building kind of my own software that was the one I wish I had. Along the way, met Luke at Roller, and really saw where they were going with their booking, with really the emphasis on growing venues and helping make your job as a venue owner operator much easier. Sure. And it was just immediate partnership. So between the karting piece that I provide, links directly up now, it's called Roller Karting, and it provides go-kart management, everything you need to run parties, group events, do the timing, and ties really nicely into the booking side of Roller, point of sale, everything that they provide, which is a huge ecosystem.
Sweet. I love it. Well, you also do some professional production and event pieces for, things we were just talking about, the Indy 500 and other things like that. So yeah, it seems like you've got that need for speed, my friend. So
absolutely, man. I love having just fun experiences, whether you're a fan, you're driving, you're pit crew, just having fun when you're out there was the name of the game for us.
I love it.
Those experiences happen.
Right on. Well, so let's dive in on the focus of today's episode and diversifying that attractions portfolio and all of the additional benefits that kind of come with that, and as well as some good guiding principles on how to evaluate and go through, hey, where do we start with this? And, the biggest thing when I'm talking with customers, we see a lot of, hey, traditional bowling centers or traditional trampoline parks. Like for the last few years, we've really seen this, hey, we have to diversify. We have to have more things to offer to help with dwell time, relevancy, the whole bit. And all of that ultimately is translating into staying relevant in the marketplace, kind of keeping folks from having to run errands for their entertainment, as I say. But it's harder and harder to stay relevant through that single anchor attraction and just an arcade. So what, you coming from the karting background and working with a number of operators in there, karting traditionally, a lot of times will be standalone centers. So what are some of those things that you're seeing operators like that start to implement as they're looking to have more than just karting and arcade?
Yeah, good question. So you hit on a few points. One is you don't want to run errands for your entertainment, right? Like it's got to be easy. And nowadays, you're competing against a lot of other things that you can go do.
Right.
And in the karting industry specifically, but it's the same in trampolines, others. We've seen that they really want to diversify. They're trying to get the customers to, to show up, spend more time there, and just generally feel at home, right? Like my kids are increasingly, stuck on their screens. So the more that we can get out, have fun, interact with each other, bring friends along, maybe meet some new friends along the way. That's really huge. So there's maybe two pieces that I've seen as I'll speak to karting tracks, and this applies to all FECs that want to diversify. There's two ways you can look at it that we've done a lot of research on at Roller. One is going really wide. So, that's your typical plan. Hey, let's add some more things that complement, maybe hit different demographics, different types of activities you might have, maybe still an anchor whether it's, karting, trampolines, but then you have some smaller things that maybe can fill in the gap between doing different activities. That's going wide. The other one is going a little bit deeper, right? So take the attractions you already have. Again, we'll call it karting. And hey, let's go deep. So let's spin up some very specific events around karting that maybe fill off hours. So you've got these resources. Hey, let's use them 100%, right? So we can also go deep and cater to, again, those specific groups. There's things around seasonality that we can do. When I ran NOLA, there was one really fun event we did. It showed me a lot about my wife as well. It was around Valentine's Day. We called it speed dating. And basically it was a couples race. So you had the guys and the girls, your partners would come out. And yeah, it was kind of the best time of both combined. A lot of fun. Also a couple fights. We had a break couple fights. They were, they're again, you never know what's going to happen to these things. My wife got black flagged.
Oh no.
Hey babe, if you're gonna drive a little bit dirty, like don't do it in front of flag marshals, like do it on the other side of the track, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. Pick your spot. Oh man.
Yeah, but anyways, let's go in deep, right? Deep with your attractions and getting the most out of them. Both of these topics we can dive into in a bit, but both will really help your venue grow and expand.
Absolutely. Well, and I love never forgetting to have fun with it and be a little cheeky and a little cute with some of that stuff, just because in my mind, that's such a great way for the personality of your center, because we are in that business of fun. Like lean into those types of opportunities. I love the speed dating. That is fantastic.
Super fun.
And you were saying earlier as well of, hey, if we're widening, to use your term there, and starting to offer more complementary attractions or additional entertainment options within the center, I've always had this mindset, and you alluded to this earlier, of, hey, are we adding some of these in to bring in a new audience, or are we adding this in because we know it speaks to our core? And so you look at, hey, if karting is our anchor attraction, let's, just keep, using that, where we know that we're going to skew probably a little bit on the older side. It's not going to be as, kid stuff, but we may run really good kid programming and things for the racing, depending on, how intense your experience is. But then, or do we need to bring in something like mini golf so that way they can have, an extended date night, or, whatever it is, mini bowling, all different types of things. But the big part, I think, is figuring out which audience you're trying to put that in for, so that way it can be something that resonates with it. Are we trying to find a new untapped group? Great. And then we can start going down the rabbit hole. When you are seeing customers start to go wide with some of that, and as they're getting into that initial piece of which audience should I be evaluating this for, and then that will help me start to kind of create the short list of potential add-ons. What are some either guidelines or resources that you've found helpful for folks as they start down that path?
Yeah, great question. So the first one, you've almost got to be a bit of a Sherlock Holmes, right? Put your detective hat on. Just talk to the customers, kind of follow them around. I spoke with one of our customers. So this is the Fun Day, and what they do is like indoor play places. And what they saw though was that the demographic was skewing quite young. But then as you start to have, the siblings get a little bit older, so that 6 to 14-year-old range, they started to lose a little bit of interest. So what they're doing is actually creating a second center that, again, the normal business stays the same. This second venue now is going to cater to this older demographic. It's going to focus a little bit more on fitness. They're doing something really cool, which I love, which is kind of gamifying some climbing. So again, that gives you a lot of repeat business as well. Yeah. But again, they looked at the target audience, just had conversations with their customers and say, hey, like my older kids are losing interest. But if we had, more climbing, more gamification, a little bit more of a healthy twist, that would pull them back in. And sure enough, it did. So it's great to see that they took the same concept that they knew and loved, and again, just pivoted it to a little bit, higher demographic, a little bit older demographic, and they found great success there. So again, be Sherlock Holmes, man. Dig in, follow your customers.
Well, and it also goes into, hey, like checking out the population, what are the trends in our market? Are we aging up? Are we seeing an influx of new kids? Because to your point, hey, this is an established customer base that is just naturally graduating out of the specific activities. So now we need to have something that's a little older. Sometimes you may also find, hey, we're going to skew towards the young adult population and everything like that. But gosh, there's a whole new influx of young families or things that are coming in. So maybe we start to fold in something that can, appeal to that group, and then start to bring them in on the earlier side, and then graduate up into the rest of what may already be there. So I love that. And I think that, to your point, and be that Sherlock Holmes, but reach out to other operators, start seeing kind of what and where you're hey, what's resonating with you, and reaching out to partners that you may already be working with, because it's, I think that's one of the best things about our industry is everyone, for the most part, because it's human beings, but most of them will, be more than willing to kind of say, hey, this is what's working for us. This is where we're seeing, here's some of our data on this. It's not nearly as much of a closed-fisted kind of culture that we have throughout the industry as a whole. So don't hesitate to reach out and start poking at it, whether it's Facebook operator groups or other things. And even other folks in your market. A lot of times there's pretty reasonable relationships that could and should be in place there.
Yeah, a couple of things that came to mind too as I was talking with, again, just our staff and then talking to different customers. Roller does a really good job. Matter of fact, they have teams dedicated to doing industry research, finding trends. And again, they just publish it because we believe, hey, like if we can bring everybody up with us with the industry, that's only going to grow, things for everyone.
Absolutely.
So we have a couple resources. One is going to be just a blog article on business ideas for attractions. So whether you're kind of an old hat at this, or if you're brand new and just want to say, hey, like show me the landscape, show me where people are going. We've got an article written specifically for that.
Nice.
I'll throw you the link for the show notes. And
yeah, that'll be perfect. We'll drop them in there.
Yeah, and the second one that I really love is each year Roller takes all the data we've got, all the conversations we've had, and rolls this into a business industry report. And there's pretty hard metrics in there. If you're a data person, data geek, you can nerd out on, okay, where are things going? And they slice and dice it every which way. It's a great way to get ideas, look at demographics. And again, like to your point, like research your area. If you're a high tourism area, that's going to change a lot of how you market, where you go. If it's more of a less touristy, more of just a stable market, that's going to change things as well. But yeah, do your research, and again, lean on all the resources you've got. We've got some great ones that I'll share.
I love that. And as a person who's a sucker for the IAPA benchmark survey, and it hasn't come out in as recently, and normally they roll it out every couple of years, but anytime that you can start to see some of that macro trend and even be able to start to zoom in, it's just so beneficial, because you may be in your market, but you're not realizing that nationwide, like, stuff like mini golf is just blowing up, and has been for a while. But why is that? And is that, we've been seeing from data that we've been collecting, it's like, hey, this is moms want to be able to facilitate a group event when they're going and doing this, and mini golf's been around for forever because it's great from 5 to 95. I mean, you're having a great time. And so it's just starting to actually not just work the symptoms of and the kind of anecdotal stuff, but really be able to dive in off and make these decisions based off of good data. So yeah, thank you. We'll be sure to drop those both in the show notes as well. And I think that so when I do, I've given talks on, hey, here's diversifying, here's what an ecosystem can start to look like. The biggest things that I always tell folks is, hey, the 3 biggest ways that you're going to impact revenue at your center is just the number of customers that are coming in, 2, what their per cap or average spend is, and 3 is the frequency that they're coming back. And from my perspective, I feel like by adding attractions, and why we see so many folks diversify is, 1, frequency is going up and average spend is going up. And so you're not necessarily having to find all of these new customers. You're just getting them to come back more frequently and spend incrementally more money than they were prior. And the compounding effect of that is just absolutely massive on the success for a business operator. And so when you guys are looking at some of this data, are you typically kind of, helping them understand, hey, if we're not tracking good data to begin with and kind of seeing where we're at, what are some good baseline pieces of data that folks should start to? Obviously we want them to have a CRM or a data bank of their customers, but then do you guys find that the more folks are tracking, repeat visits, so you can kind of target niche and market to those entities? Like, where should they start with some of that data collection?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, data is huge in what we do. And again, if you don't have anything, start anywhere. Like just get started, because just something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But we find, talking about the dwell time and how you start to increase that, we found that, running a proper schedule, like staying on schedule, makes your business very repeatable. People are more apt to come back. I know I've had experiences at some centers where I showed up and, hey, our time was at 11, but they're running behind. Okay, it's 11:30, maybe it's later. It's hard to have like a good experience when you do that. So
Mm-hmm.
the tighter that you can run your online booking or your in-person booking, the better that experience becomes. And again, just making the venue somewhere that you would want, yourself would want to be. Having like a great ambiance, having always something to do, to look at, to see, works really well. One huge piece that we found with Roller is making our online booking instantaneous, making it very easy to book. A lot of times when I'm with the kids, I'm saying, hey, what do we want to do today? We've got, we're in Southern California, so there's a ton of options. I like to pull up, the online bookings, say, hey, like where, who's open, what's happening. And if I can book it right there, man, guaranteed, like we're gonna go do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. And again, a lot of times there's an opportunity for upsells there. Roller's
Yeah.
great about doing that. So that's increasing your bundle size, right? And that dwell time because, hey, I might be going for laser tag, but hey, you know what? There's axe throwing too. Like, let me add that in.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're going to be there around lunch. There's an F&B option. Let me go ahead and just tag that in too. So again, the dwell time goes up, the average basket size goes up. And for me, it's quick and easy to do. It's done. I know that the venue I'm going to, they're going to run on schedule. They've got a good set of bookings. So it makes for a great experience that we're going to come back to time and time again.
Well, and that's the thing Danny and I talk a lot about is just where are you removing friction in the process?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it not only does that where, hey, if I'm thinking about it and I want to do it, great, you're not missing out on opportunities. And to your point, they also get to see a wider breadth of what you have to offer. They may have been thinking about you for X and now they're going to also do Y. So yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those where for folks that were having the, ticket redemption, battle of do we do tokens or do we switch to cards? It's like, it's a no-brainer. And
Mm-hmm.
same thing for online booking. Like, it's just one of those where between food, food delivery apps and everything else, like the friction and, they're going to compare everything to that where they can immediately get it off of their phone. And that's where the vast majority of your online bookings and stuff are going to come through is people who have a spontaneity, want to be able to do something. Oh, great, we can book this right now. Like same as how you used to book your movie tickets or whatever, where we are clock watchers in a lot of ways. And so being able to solidify those, even when we're doing it spontaneously, like it's just a no-brainer to make sure that we're not leaving, dollars on the table or experiences for people that are going to benefit from it.
Yeah, there is one other thing, Russ, that, talking about online booking is, we're talking about more like, just me arriving with the kids, kind of like a one-off event.
Right.
One thing that we're seeing that's really helping venues is bringing group bookings online. And again, making that very easy to book, right? So a lot of times when I'm, booking a party for the kids, we just did one at a karting center. You have to call, you have to catch somebody on the phone. It's a little bit of back and forth, some friction there. If you can move your group bookings online, again, that's a huge way to get in. It's kind of free marketing, right? Because I'm booking a party, but I'm inviting, 20, 30, 40 friends.
Right.
So they're signing the waiver. We've got information on them. So again, now I've got 40 potential more leads. We showed them a great time at this party. Guaranteed a portion of those will come back. But if I can put that online, we see a lot of bookings that happen after hours. So when the venue is completely closed, people are booking parties and the upsells are in there. So they're booking their pizza, they're getting it all done.
Yeah.
Saves staffing for you. It gets business that you might not have gotten, right? They may have called, oh, the business is closed. Let me go, do something else. So that's a huge avenue.
And that staff management aspect of it. I mean, if you are in the good place of just being up to your eyeballs and always, when we're in our busy time, we are just maxed out.
Right.
It also helps you see, hey, we have a ton of bookings coming up over the next 3 days. We had a lighter, scheduling from a labor standpoint, like now I can flex it up. And as you start to accumulate pieces of data like this, where, hey, we know if we're at typically X number of bookings on a Tuesday, we're typically seeing this kind of range. And so you start to measure your traffic and your counts and things like that. But then it starts to help you anticipate like, this week is typically really, really light for us. And so now, but you can start to have actual data, not just, hey, this is how it's been. It's now this is what it's looking like it's going to be. Yeah. So so getting into one aspect of, when we are adding attractions, one of the things that you had mentioned was, hey, it doesn't just have to be, or not adding attractions, but just also diversifying the offering. Like some of that is through unique programming on a seasonal aspect, like the speed dating that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So what I'd imagine, again, something like that, much more on the low cost end of the spectrum, because hey, we already have everything here that we're doing. Have
Yeah.
you seen other kind of seasonal things where folks are flexing in, kind of temporary attraction setups or other pieces like that? And then what do some of those look like?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I'll tell you a little bit of a secret too. It won't be a secret anymore, but one thing that we're playing around with at Roller, and you'll see this, is actually like doing shifting prices. So hey,
Yeah.
like if we have a slow time, like let's show that to the customer. Hey, like you can book a party in these off times, and again start to really fill the capacity there. Back
Mm-hmm.
on your point of hey, we've got these attractions. How do we utilize them to the max? I've got an awesome customer in the UK. It's Jay at Gridline. So their Tuesday nights are typically pretty slow on the go-kart track. Again, Tuesday night kind of an off time. I think their Wednesdays are slow as well. He used our leaderboard functionality to actually create a one-off competition. They run it every Tuesday, and basically you have to achieve a certain lap time to even be invited, right? So it's an invite-only thing. So right off the
Ah.
gate, you've got people that are coming just to qualify to get into this one, all right? And then on Tuesday nights, if you qualified, you can then jump in. They do a huge social media push. They live stream it. It's a big deal. So again, you've got a social aspect for that as well. So
Yeah.
all these racers have kind of the panache of, hey, like I qualified. Now let me see how I stack up on the same night with all these same people. Where do I rank? And again, they
Yeah.
make them feel like real race car drivers. And what's really cool, and this can really apply to axe throwing and other verticals too, is they take our leaderboards and we can actually sub-segment. So I can have just a cadet board. I can have, for the guys like me, an over 40 board, right? Because it's hard for me to compete with those younger kids. But again, make as many winners as you possibly can, like make them famous. And that's a great way to utilize your resources and really fill them up.
I dig it. Yeah, the programming is such a key portion, and you can start, or you can do different takes. Like if you're a bowling center, again, some folks will do cosmic bowling, those kinds of modifications to the chassis, so to speak, of what that core attraction normally is. It translates, and it's been around and it's been proven, but especially to be able to create some of that to drive, hey, how do we put a new twist on this? How do we have something that is familiar but now has some novelty to it to drive traffic into lower period times is fantastic. Do you also see, where like any other things beyond the programming? Have you seen anything from hey, we're gonna in the spring we do this for a month long, or we turn our laser tag arena and we make it a haunted house type experience? Like, what are some of those things that you're seeing?
Yeah. So one of our customers we talked to, Adventure Park. So they typically are a summer, like a summer seasonality business. They created something called Winter Glow, and basically it helped them kind of retweak their adventure park into more of a wintertime wonderland to get some activities happening in the winter. So again, they took a season that typically they weren't busy at all, totally rethemed it, called it Winter Glow, and again immediately had a slow time filled. So just a little bit of creativity, knowing your market, knowing what's going on, allowed them to shift and radically again grow business that they otherwise didn't have, where the assets were just sitting unused.
Right.
This is another one too, where we've got an awesome article. I'll share this with you as well about diversifying assets you already have. So
Okay.
we've got a ton of great ideas that you can kind of look at your vertical and say, oh yeah, like never thought about that. Let me try that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and that's the part where I always try to keep folks thinking of, again, it's hey, you may need to add some new things, but also do you have a Ferrari to deliver pizzas is what I typically, use for that. Like, are we underutilizing things that we already have? And I think that doing a combination of those two things, again, just makes it that much more powerful. It's also good for just staff state of mind, where it's something new and different, where they get to focus on it in a new way. And so it helps kind of, re-energize, because it's something to ramp up towards and do. If you see, with these investments of, hey, we're going to either diversify a little bit with what we're doing already with some of these attractions and start to put in new programming, as well as, hey, we are adding this new, hey, we're looking for something that's more on the smaller footprint, unique and boutique, that's kind of a VIP lounge vibe, or, hey, we need something that's high throughput and capacity to just handle the overflow traffic. Like, depending on those obviously come at different points of the spectrum on cost as well. So I wanted to talk to you about justifying those investments. And so what are some ideas or kind of key performance pieces that folks should be using to evaluate, hey, are we on track? Are we, where is there room for improvement? How do we start to kind of break that down to make sure that we're getting a proper ROI on those investments?
Great question. So again, I'll say, like, if you're doing nothing today, just start with the basics, follow customers, ask questions. We've got some pretty cool stuff where we actually send surveys out to customers and get their feedback. We call it the GX score. Basically, it's the guest experience score. And they rate us, hey, how do we do? And then they'll give feedback as well. That is gold for finding somebody. If they're happy, that's great. If it's a negative feedback, that's even better, because then we have a chance to reach back out, connect with the customers. Hey, why was your experience bad? How can we make it better? How can we make this a 10 of 10 experience? So just that feedback is huge. The other thing we look at too, again, data really rules the world here, making sure that everything we have is utilized. You can look a certain amount with your eyes, but man, if you've got it in front of you and able to compare, let's look at 2 weeks ago versus this week. We changed this one thing. We're doing a small test. Did it work? Did it not work? Sometimes what you find just from talking with people will give you one answer. But again, if you have data to back it up, that gives you a whole nother data point as well. And then again, comparing to our industry benchmarks, you can say, well, hey, this is how I'm doing. How do I compare to the rest of the industry? How do I compare to the area that I'm in? So again, use all the tools at your disposal, but data is king here. Plus, again, detective hat on, just go talk to people, follow them around the venue. One thing we do is come up with personas. So we'll say, okay, let's, it's the busy mom with maybe 3 kids. That's one persona. Let's follow them around, make sure that they've got all the things that they need to do between activities, follow, and hey, I'm going to put in this new activity. Does it work for them? Can they get to it? Can they book it? Is it manageable? So again, just follow the guest experience all the way through. Quite a bit of fun, but you'll learn a lot about, hey, is this really making sense for us? And then ultimately that data is going to back up, hey, is there an ROI on this? And make sure it's not, cannibalizing something else.
And that's a great point, because that, when you do add something new, it's okay. Sometimes you're going to add something in, and where folks were going to spend, $8 more over here, they're now going to just take that same $8 and actually spend it over on this side to, so there can be some cannibalization. And that's a piece where I always say, to folks that are looking to add something new and everything else. And it's, hey, all I can tell you is, based off across all of our customers, here's kind of the good, the better, and the best performance numbers that we see across different markets, and what those actual play numbers end up being. And because it's really hard, so that way then they can at least see, okay, now that we've added in this new attraction, let's also keep an eye on kind of the baseline data of the things that we already have. And if we start to see something go down too much, and we're only seeing this, this portion, like, not all of that is net new. And so you want to make sure that you're thinking of kind of what that adjusted blend could or should be. And some of it may then be, after you've done this, is, we need to repackage this, or we actually need to charge a little bit more on this attraction. One, because it's new and popular and we're in that honeymoon phase perhaps, or it's just, I want to make sure that we're seeing a true, whatever it is, 20% increase on our average per cap spend, and making sure that average per cap spend is, more than just what the old average was. But hey, if we are getting 30% of our customers to play this attraction, here's what the net increase should actually be. So that way you can make sure that you're kind of starting to weigh it. And sometimes those benchmarks are guesswork. Like we if there's an area here, even at Creative Works, where we say, hey, we want to start tracking this, we want to start to get an idea. The first, period of time, that first evolution phase, is kind of yes, we have this data and this is what we think it tells us, but we also need to kind of start now poking holes to see what blind spots maybe we had or what not. So there's always layers to the data, but that's where it's just so important, because you may think it's telling you one thing, it's actually telling you something a little bit different. But the other piece, to your point, is just start somewhere. It's, hey, if we're starting with this, we can at least make intelligent decisions based on what we have. And then as we start to grow, like, yes, we can always tweak the process and see where that goes. But it's, having at least some baseline, because if you're seeing improvements on that baseline, like, yes, it's all flawed, but we're still seeing it increase. And now we can start to find better ways to get a little bit more insight on it.
Yeah, and again, data's king there. And remember, like, if you've got maybe some levers to pull with bundling, where you can bundle certain products together, you can actually start to drive, people to maybe try something new that they wouldn't have tried previously.
Right.
And again, start to move it, and doing the math again, the people we've got at Roller are pretty good about like really nerding out on, hey, like, can we move this metric even 2%? Because, over like a month of revenue, like that 2% actually is pretty big, right? So we're constantly tweaking, trying, and we give the tools, to the operators to do the same thing.
Yeah, and that I think is a good way for us to kind of go full circle with that. Just, hey, I may be able to make a 4% increase on the per cap spend, but I get a 10% increase on the frequency. Like those are multiplication, not just addition. And so just reminding folks, work the knobs and the levers, do little things at a time, so that way you can also make sure that you're understanding what's actually triggering the behavior. But also it's that compound effect, a lot of times when you see that moving up and to the right. So before I let you go, I always love to ask our partners, hey, is there a favorite book or an audiobook podcast, any quote or something along those lines that has been serving you either recently or, throughout your career? And I'd love to hear what's, ranking up there for you right now.
Yeah. So I've got one that my wife turned me on to. It's a book called The Measure. And what it is, I won't give the full story away, but it's by Nikki Ehrlich. And basically, all of humanity wakes up one day, and there's a box on their front door. And in this box is a string, right? A little piece of thread. And with it comes a note, and it says, "Here within lies the measure of your life." And I was like, man, that's a pretty interesting premise, right? And what everybody figures out is, hey, everybody's got different length strings, right? So if your string is really long, that means you've got a lot of days left. If it's shorter, you have fewer days left. Yeah. And I won't spoil the premise of the book, which goes into kind of how society deals with knowing, hey, if, for instance, like if you've got a short string, will a business give you a loan? So they go deep into that, which was interesting.
Wow.
But what I really got out of it was, all right, it's really not about how many days you have, but it's about the experiences and how much riches we pack into these, right? As these customers come to us, they're, giving us some of their time. They're looking for a great experience. And that always resounds in me like, hey, the reason we do this, we want to give that experience tenfold back to them, right? We want to see them leave with a smile on their face, come back, bring some friends. So again, the book, The Measure, like really reinforced with me, like, hey, I love this stuff because you know what? We are giving experiences that hopefully last a lifetime. It's connections that they may not have gotten, except they came, to us. They had an experience with us. And at Roller, that's a top line metric we track, is how many experiences do we power? And again, I love it. This stuff all plays into that. But ultimately, end of the day, we are giving awesome experiences.
Amen. Amen. Well said, sir. With that, we're going to wrap up, but we've got more awesome content coming your guys' way on future episodes. Check them out each week as they drop wherever you get your podcasts. As well as if you liked what you heard today, please feel free to give us that 5-star review, and we appreciate it as always. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, please be sure to hit us up on social media, and we'll add those into the mix. And a shout out to Mikey Mike on the ones and twos working the Ultranet for us as always. And thank you all for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one, Troublemakers.